All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. To any classrooms who are joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing science, exploration, adventure, and conservation live into classrooms across North America and around the world through virtual field trips, virtual guest speakers, and all kinds of crazy connections from the field with satellite gear and more cool stuff like that. So if you haven't already, visit our site, exploringbytheseat.com, or find us on social media at EBTSOYP. You can also sign up for our newsletter every Sunday night. We have a new newsletter go out to classrooms, and it is jam-packed with interactive resources and live events you can hang out with your students. So check that out after today's event. I want to give a shout out to all the students I see starting to tune in live right now. Don't be shy to get interactive and use that chat sidebar. Say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Like I can see we've got Caesar hanging out with us in Nicaragua. We've got Brampton, Ontario hanging out with us, Tucson, Arizona, Nova Scotia, Hampton, Georgia. So lots of cool classroom groups already saying hello, and I'm sure we'll have lots more coming soon. So don't be shy and use that chat sidebar. So we have a great event coming your way today. I think most of us can safely say we love the ocean, and I think a lot of students out there would choose sea turtles as their favorite ocean creatures. As a scuba diver myself, there's nothing I love better than diving, and any dive where you get to see sea turtles is pretty special. So today joining us will be Lucas Meers. He serves as the director of the Jacksonville University Sea Turtle Program at the Marine Science Research Institute in Jacksonville, Florida. For over 15 years, he has monitored sea turtle nesting trends and distribution in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, with Mickler's Landing Turtle Patrol. And so today we're going to learn all about the work they're doing to help one of the world's most charismatic species. So let's go backstage. Let's bring Lucas in front and center with us. Hey, Lucas, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys today?
Good, good. It's great to have you with us. I can see a few classes saying hi from
Hello.
Florida. I know we have a good crew representing from Florida. We've got Jamestown, New York, and more. So I think it's going to be pretty fun. Yeah, Lucas, it's great to have you with us, and we're excited to get to know you and your work a bit better.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. This is my second presentation with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, but it's my first one doing with sea turtles. It's one of my passion projects. It's something that I've been really passionate about my whole life. I've always been interested in turtles, and I'm very fortunate that I get to spend a lot of time on the beach working with turtles, saving turtles. I spend a majority of my life on the beach, and I'm excited to take all of you on this journey with me on what me and my team do to help protect sea turtles in Northeast Florida. I'm excited that we have reach all across the world in Nicaragua and Canada, and I know Florida has a big showing. I saw a lot of people registered from locally, so I really want to get you guys out on the beach too. But I think we're gonna just get into it. Joe, should I just share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Share it.
Perfect.
We'll make sure it looks good, and then we'll let you take over for a little bit. I'll give the classrooms a head up as well. While Lucas is presenting today, I'm going to make a little Kahoot quiz. I will put up the website and password you need to join us, and we'll test some of our new sea turtle knowledge.
Ooh,
but
exciting.
I see the presentation. It looks good, Lucas.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you again so much. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about sea turtles and what our team does. There are 7 sea turtle species located in and around the warm waters of the world. First, we have the leatherback, which is the largest species of turtle in the world. It's not only the largest species of sea turtle, but it's the largest species of turtle in the world. They can get to be about 7 feet wide. That's massive. When the females come out of the water and onto the beach to lay their eggs, it looks like a tractor drove on the beach. It's that massive. They're massive turtles. Then we have the green sea turtle, which is probably the most familiar turtle to everyone here. When you think of a sea turtle, you often think of a green sea turtle, or at least I do. We do see those pretty frequently in Florida. And then we have the loggerhead sea turtle, which is by far the most common species of sea turtle that we have in Florida. In fact, Florida has the largest nesting population of loggerhead sea turtles in the world. It's an incredibly high amount of nesting here in Florida and even in Northeast Florida. So this is the most common species of sea turtle that I see. Then we have the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, which is the smallest and most endangered species of sea turtle. They primarily nest come up out of the water to nest in Texas and Mexico. Occasionally we'll get some nests in Florida, but it's pretty rare. We seem to have a slowly growing population off the coast of Florida that will nest every couple of years. Then we have the hawksbill sea turtle, which is known for its beautiful shell. These are warm water nesting turtles. Occasionally, we might get 1 or 2 nests in the whole state of Florida from a hawksbill sea turtle. They're pretty rare in our waters. They're more in the tropical waters. The 6th species is the olive ridley sea turtle. These are primarily on the Pacific coast in the Pacific Ocean. These are the turtles that are known to come up and nest in what's called an arribada, which in Spanish that means arrival. So these turtles will come up and nest tens of thousands at a time, and you're literally tripping over these turtles if you're walking on the beach while they're nesting. They nest in such high numbers on the Pacific coast of Central America. And then the 7th and final species is the flatback sea turtle, which primarily nests in Australia and Indonesia in the Indian and Pacific Ocean. I've never seen a flatback in my life, but I have seen the other 6 species of sea turtles. And so primarily I'm going to focus on turtles in Florida because that's where I work. But all 7 species of sea turtles found throughout the world are threatened or endangered to some degree or some capacity. And what this means is their numbers are not, their population numbers are not at what they once were. And there is a potential threat of extinction if we don't work hard to save them, to save all of the populations. There have been scientists doing some analysis and looking at the numbers, and there are some positive trends of sea turtle numbers increasing in certain areas of the world, which is really exciting for us. But we still have a lot of work to do, and my team in Florida is working to help protect what we can, the species that we see here in Florida. So the sea turtle life cycle, I need to talk a little bit about that. So they primarily spend their lives in the water. Sea turtles are not like freshwater turtles. If you were to go to a lake or a river to see turtles, they will come out of the water and bask on a log or on the shoreline. But sea turtles don't really do that. They spend all their lives in the water, but the females will come out of the water after mating in the water. The females will come out during a summer, and she will lay a nest of eggs. We call it a clutch or a group of eggs. And she'll do that, depending on the species, she'll come out of the water and lay eggs up to 7 or 8 times in one summer. And each nest will have about 100 eggs. That number can vary between species also, but it's about 100 eggs per nest, and it's up to 8 nests in a summer. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of eggs that she's producing. And she'll do that every 2 to 3 years. So she might lay 8 nests in one summer, but then take a year or 2 off and then come back and do it again. And so my team does work with sea turtles on land. So we primarily work with the nests and the hatchlings and the occasional female turtle. We don't do any work in the water. All of our work is done on land. And so where we're located is in Northeast Florida in the United States, in a town called Ponte Vedra. We're south of Jacksonville, but we're north of St. Augustine, and we're focused around a place called Mickler's Landing. And we monitor all of the nests that are north and south of Mickler's Landing within about a 4.5 mile stretch of beach. And we go out every single morning, 30 minutes before sunrise during the nesting season. So we have to wake up extra early during the nesting season to look for any new nests that sea turtles laid the night before. So female sea turtles will come out of the water under the cover of darkness because there's fewer predators. And one, she has peace and quiet. But she comes up out of the water at night to find a suitable place to lay her eggs. So when she comes out of the water, she leaves behind a track that we can use to identify the sea turtle and see what actually happened. What did she do that night? Did she lay eggs? Did she not lay eggs? Because sometimes they will decide this isn't the right spot, or she might have gotten scared by a dog or a person and she went back into the water and ultimately didn't lay eggs. So it's important for us to document all of that to see what is happening on our beaches. So we're out on the beach every single morning, 30 minutes before sunrise, so it is dark, every day between April 15th through October 31st. That's 200 days of patrols every morning that our team is out looking for new nests and checking on existing nests. And we do this because it's important for us to know how many nests are being laid so we can use that as and to get an idea of how the populations are, how many turtles are out there in the water. And we can use formulas and a bunch of math stuff to be able to determine and estimate what the population is off the coast of Florida. And the reason we do it so early in the morning is because beaches are popular. Everyone loves going to the beach, and we have to be out on the beach before everyone gets out there and starts walking all over these tracks, because we have to be able to look at the tracks that they leave behind in the sand to determine what happened. Did she lay eggs? Did she not lay eggs? Is she missing a flipper? We can determine that from a track in the sand. And we just have to understand what was going through the female's mind to be able to see what was there and what she did and what happened. And we can identify the species of turtle based on the track pattern. And so I said the most common species we have is the loggerhead. So on the far left is the loggerhead species, the loggerhead sea turtle. They crawl with what we call an alternating gait, G-A-I-T. Alternating gait means kind of like an alternating walk. It's a certain way that she will crawl, and she moves her right flipper, left flipper, right flipper, left flipper, and that creates a pattern in the sand in these cute little comma-shaped marks. That's what we call an alternating gait. And then with greens and leatherbacks, they move with a simultaneous gait, meaning they move all of their flippers at the same time. They move all their flippers at the same time, and that leaves a very specific pattern in the sand. So we're able to identify, even without seeing the female turtle, because she came up at night and we're walking that following morning, we can identify which species of sea turtle laid which specific nest based on those crawl markings. So it's important for us to be out there before everyone walks all over these crawls and enjoys the beach for the day. We have to get out there before the people so we can be able to ID the crawl and actually see what happened. Did she lay eggs? Did she not lay eggs? And see what she did and what she may have encountered along the way. So this is a nesting loggerhead. She's using her back flippers. You can see her back flippers there kind of moving a little bit. She's covering her eggs delicately with sand. And what she'll do after that is start throwing sand around to help camouflage her nest from predators. And so this is generally what it looks like when a female turtle finishes nesting. So you can see on the right side of the photo, that's her incoming track. That's what we call an incoming track, where she came into the beach or onto the beach from the water. And then the round area, the brownish orangish area, that's where she laid her eggs. That's where the nest is. And then after she covered the eggs up, then she began to crawl back to the water. And you can see these people are giving her a respectable distance, a distance they don't want to disturb her. If you do see a sea turtle on the beach, you want to make sure that you don't disturb her. We recommend staying about 50 feet away from female turtles, just so you don't disturb them or scare them. They can go along their way and back into the water, and then hopefully come back in about 2 weeks to lay another nest during that summer. The whole nesting process for a turtle takes about 1.5 to 2 hours from where she leaves the water and goes back into the water. And so she's on the beach for a significant amount of time, and she's very vulnerable to any predators or anything that might be on the beach, prowling the beach. And so it's good that we give them their peace and quiet. And so what our team does is we'll come by the next morning and we'll see this nest, and then we'll have to mark it. We have to collect a lot of data. And we put stakes around it because it's important for us to know that this nest is here, so that when it eventually hatches, we can go in and see how successful that nest is. And the stakes also let people know that there's a nest here, don't disturb it. And so in Florida, we're very fortunate that we don't have really any issues with people disturbing nests. For the most part, people in Florida and anyone that visits Florida beaches are very respectful of sea turtle nests. So we can put stakes around nests. We don't have any issues with poachers or anyone trying to dig up the nests. I know that can sometimes be a concern in Central America, or where turtles will nest in higher densities. Putting stakes around a nest essentially says, here are eggs, come get them. And I know that that's probably not a common practice in Nicaragua or in Costa Rica, but we do it in Florida so that we know where this nest is. And people do in Florida respect sea turtle nests. So this is generally what it looks like. Every turtle patrol has a different way of marking nests, but it's all for the same reasons. Anytime that a nest is marked in Florida, that nest is due to go through a nest evaluation or a nest productivity assessment, which I'll get into a little bit later. But when we encounter these nests, we have to collect a lot of data and a lot of measurements because we want to know as much as we can in order to learn as much as we can about sea turtles. Sea turtles are so popular. They're charismatic megafauna. That's a term that you should use, and that's a fun term to say. But there's still so much about their lives that we don't know. So we're trying to understand them as much as possible. And one thing that we do is we collect sand samples. So you might be aware that as you move through your environment, you are shedding your skin cells, you're leaving hair behind. If you brush your hair, you have hair in the hairbrush, you're leaving behind environmental DNA or eDNA. And turtles do the same thing. When a female turtle comes out of the water and she's scraping her body on the sand, she's leaving behind her little bits of DNA. And we take that sand sample and we can extract that DNA from that sand to learn about that turtle. We can identify that turtle. We can learn if she is carrying any diseases, if she has any markers in her genes that this individual turtle is more susceptible to a certain cancer or a certain disease. We're collecting this information so that we can better understand the sea turtle populations and protect them as a whole. We also take a single fresh egg from each nest, and this goes to support a few different studies. One is we can look at the mitochondrial DNA. And so it's important to know that everyone has DNA, but mitochondrial DNA only comes from the maternal line. It only comes from your mom, and that's all animals across the board. So I have my mom's mitochondrial DNA, you have your mom's mitochondrial DNA. This turtle egg has its mom's mitochondrial DNA. So we know which specific female laid which specific nest by taking that mitochondrial DNA from that egg. It's really cool, and we're learning about nest site fidelity. And do turtles come back to the same beach to nest year after year? They do, but it's a little bit more nuanced, and we're exposing some new information with that, which is really exciting. And then that egg also goes to support isotope research. And isotope is a tiny molecule, a tiny thing. You need a microscope to be able to see it. We can understand where sea turtles are eating because sea turtles are migratory. They do travel around the world. They might nest in one country, but they're eating in a different country. And so with this isotope analysis, or looking at these tiny molecules, we know the turtle is nesting in Florida, but then we can look at isotopes to see this turtle is eating in the Bahamas. And so now we need to look at protecting areas in the Bahamas, because it's important to know that if you protect their nesting area, they might lay eggs there. But if a sea turtle is migratory, which they are, and they're eating elsewhere, they might be susceptible or at risk of or threatened in that other area. So we can look at protection measures across the globe to make sure that these species are protected as much as possible and throughout their entire area that they live. And so we walk the beach every single morning, all 200 days of the year. We're looking for any new nests, and then we're looking for any nests that have hatched, any nests that we have marked before, after about a 2-month incubation period. So the eggs will incubate for about 2 months under the sand. within our little staked area. And then when our team walks by that next morning, we want to see, after 2 months, we want to see if that nest has emerged or if the baby's hatched. The babies really only hatch at night because, one, there's fewer predators and it's much cooler, so they don't cook on the hot sand. They want to emerge at night, so it's much safer for them to get to the water. And so we look for any evidence or markings or signs that the babies came out of the sand the night before our walk. And if they did, it's exciting for us because some of those signs are, we see a little crater or a depression that's in the blue circle. So when the babies come out of the sand will collapse, and that creates a little crater, kind of like the top of a volcano. And that's our sign that the sea turtles hatched that night before. And then if we're lucky, if the conditions are good, we'll also see a bunch of little sea turtle tracks going out to the water. In this photo, you can kind of see them off in the distance by the two people standing in the background, but this one you can see a little bit better. All of those white lines going out to the water, those are individual sea turtle hatchling tracks. So about 100 of them hatched the night before I took this picture and went out to the water. And so we document all of that. And after that happens, we go in a couple days later and we do what we call a public nest evaluation. This is where we dig up the contents of the nest, because it's not only important for us to know how many nests we have on the beach, it's important for us to know how successful those nests are. How many babies actually made it out of that nest? And so we often invite the public out to this. And so if you're local in Ponte Vedra or Jacksonville or St. Augustine, you are more than welcome to come to our public nest evaluations. We talk a lot about sea turtles, go into a little bit more depth. But then if we're lucky, we might have some hatchlings that we release on site that are remaining in the nest chamber among the eggshells. And so we will release them on site for
15, 16, 17.
Always the most popular part of it. Everyone loves seeing baby sea turtles. I mean, it's probably one of the best parts of my job, but it's an opportunity for students, children, adults alike to come out and see hatchling sea turtles at our public nest evaluations. And then we talk about what we find in the nest and try and educate our community on ways that they can help protect sea turtles, different actions that they can take to help protect sea turtles in their own home, so that we can ensure that these turtles live long and happy lives.
27.
And then as we release them, some of them crawl faster, some of them crawl slower. It all depends a little bit, but we love seeing lots of hatchlings. Our ideal situation is not finding any hatchlings in the nest at all, because that means they made it all out by themselves. But everyone always loves seeing hatchlings, so we always hope that we have a couple of them. Sometimes we're very lucky and we'll have several of them. But then when they make it to the water for the first time, it's always an exciting sight to see, because this is the first time that this turtle has ever touched water. The instinct told them to go to the water, and now they'll live the next 15, 20 years of their lives, 10, 15, 20 years of their lives in the ocean until they come back to mate and nest again. And so what can you do to help sea turtles? So there's several threats that sea turtles encounter at all stages of their lives. When they're just an egg that's incubating in the sand, some parts of the world, there's issues with poachers, that people will eat the eggs. There are issues with predators. Sometimes predators will dig up eggs. Sometimes there's coyotes that dig up eggs. Ghost crabs will dig up eggs and eat eggs. Fire ants, which are an invasive species in Florida, they will decimate, they'll eat an entire clutch of eggs. Just the ants themselves will attack eggs. And then when they're hatchlings, they are also susceptible to anything that can basically eat them. All fish, all sharks, birds, dogs, anything that can eat a little tiny hatchling. They're only a couple of inches long. They weigh about 3 grams. That's very, very tiny. They have a lot of threats throughout their entire life. But one of the biggest ones that we see in Florida is light pollution. And that's artificial light at night. So sea turtles are used to dark spaces. They want the beach to be very dark. And so if you have a flashlight on the beach, sea turtles will often go toward the light of a flashlight because they think it's the moon reflecting on the water because they're trying to get to the water. So if you have a flashlight on at night, we recommend that you turn it off, or at minimum use a red flashlight, so that sea turtles can't really see red light, so they aren't distracted or disoriented or get confused by light. So light pollution is a big issue in Florida that we're seeing. If you live on the beach, or if you're visiting the beach and staying on a hotel on the beach, make sure that you turn off your lights at night, especially during sea turtle nesting season, because that will confuse them. Pollution is a big one. Plastic pollution is a really big issue with sea turtles. Plastic bottles, plastic bags, plastic straws. When I go to a restaurant, whenever I get water, I always make sure that I request no straw. I don't like drinking from straws. I won't use a straw because that's just additional useless plastic that ends up going into the ocean. Same thing with plastic bags. Always make sure that you bring your reusable bags to the grocery store, or at minimum use paper bags because those are biodegradable. If you visit the beach and you like to dig holes, for some reason everyone likes to dig holes on the beach. I like to dig holes on the beach, but if you dig a hole on the beach when you're visiting, please make sure that you fill in your holes. The big holes that are dug can be traps for adult female turtles or even hatchlings, and they're also dangerous for people. Make sure if you dig a hole on the beach that you fill it back in when you finish, or that you knock down your sand castles. We want to remove any obstacles for turtles as much as possible. We want the beach to be clean, dark, and flat. Clean, dark, flat. That's a kind of a phrase that I use to help keep the beaches safe for sea turtles and people. And then another big issue that we're seeing is balloons. Balloon releases, in particular, intentional balloon releases, because if you release balloons, they will pop when they get to a certain height, and then the trash will come back down. And we see turtles eating balloons a lot. They get stuck in their digestive tract and they can't digest their food anymore, and that ends up killing the turtle. And so their balloons are a big issue. And we're very lucky, we're very fortunate that in 2022, just 3 years ago, St. Johns County was the first county in the entire state of Florida to ban balloon releases, which is quite surprising, as much of a threat as we know balloons are. St. Johns County was the very first county in the state of Florida to ban balloon releases. And then just last year, the state of Florida banned balloon releases across the entire state. And so several states are taking these extra steps to ban balloon releases, because you're essentially littering when you're releasing balloons. It's just flying up, it disappears, but it eventually pops and then comes back down to the ocean. So those are several things that you can do to help protect sea turtles. Turn off your lights at night, or at minimum use red lights. Clean up after yourself, reduce your use of single-use plastics, fill in your holes and knock down your sandcastles after you finish visiting the beach, and don't release balloons. Those are a few easy ways that you can help protect sea turtles from your own home. And with that, I think I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you guys about sea turtles. And I know you have a ton of burning questions. I hope you all pass Joe's quiz after this. We'll see how you all do. But I am available. Here's my contact information if you want to follow up.
All right. We'll leave that up for one more second here. And we are going to play some Kahoot. So I'm going to load that up onto the screen. I'm also going to take a few questions while students are joining the Kahoot. We don't want to waste any question time. We want to make sure we get as many questions in as we can. So I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment. And then there we go. It's loaded on my end. And now you should see it come up on your screen. There we go. Okay, so you want to go to Kahoot.it. If you have one-to-one tech at your seats, you can connect on a Chromebook or a tablet. If not, your teacher could pop this up at the front of the classroom. You could shout out your answers to him or her. If you're joining at home, use a phone or use a tablet to scan that QR code. It'll bring you right in. If you can't join with technology, no big deal at all. You can still play along and see how you do at the end. So we're getting all of our auto-generated animal names coming in here, like the rock star deer, the helpful dolphin, the dynamic yeti. We'll keep our eyes out and see if there's any turtles that pop into...
Amiable iguana.
Very cool.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, we're going to have a good little Kahoot quiz here. But let's get eager turtle. We've got a turtle.
Yes.
There we
got
go.
A turtle.
Okay, let's check in with a couple groups and grab some questions before we go live. Let's start with Mrs. Erickson. She's got one of her students hanging out with her today who is getting ready for a national competition. How we doing today? How we doing, crew?
Good.
Hello.
We're good, thank you.
All right, here's your chance. You've got Lucas captive. Let's get him with a question.
So my question was, what type of sea turtle has the most difficult time getting babies to the ocean?
Oh, that's a hard one. What sea turtle has the most difficult time getting their babies to the ocean? I think there's a lot of factors that play into this. It's hard to determine which one, but my guess would probably be the leatherback. And the reason for that is because leatherbacks tend to bury their eggs very, very deep, 2 to 3 feet deep. Which is quite deep for a turtle. For loggerheads, which is what we're used to, the nest is about 12 to 18 inches deep. But for leatherbacks, the baby sea turtles have a lot harder time digging up to the surface. And leatherbacks tend to lay their nests in the middle of the beach. So they're more prone to a lot of washovers from high tides, which will compact the sand, making it a little bit more difficult. And so I know the success rate for leatherback sea turtles is somewhat low compared to other species. So I would have to say leatherbacks for that one.
Okay.
All right, perfect. Thanks for that great question. We still have students trickling in, so I'm going to grab another classroom here. Miss Collins and Miss Darling's 5th graders. How we doing? All right, we're ready for you.
Oh, your audio's off.
Oh, yeah, you got to grab that mute for us.
Okay.
Do the babies ever get lost on their way to the ocean?
Yes, that's a big issue with light pollution for sure. So what some of the issues that we see is, so that's why we want the beach to be dark at night, because sea turtles will follow light. So if you live along the beach or if you're staying in a hotel, and the hotel has lights on, the turtles will go toward that light, which is a big concern in highly developed areas, big cities where sea turtles nest, like Miami and Tampa. Those are big areas where we get what's called a disorientation, where sea turtles will follow the light and go away from the water. And then if they get lost in the dune, that's really concerning for us. And so that's why it's best practice to turn off your lights at night. Sometimes on driving beaches, because some beaches in Florida you can drive on, very few, but sometimes the ruts will create obstacles for sea turtles, and they'll get stuck in a deep rut, and they'll just keep walking and crawling and following the rut. So they will get lost occasionally. Sometimes that's why we want to remove all the obstacles as possible, fill in your holes, knock down your sandcastles, and turn off your lights to reduce the obstacles as much as possible.
All right, thanks for the question. Let's do one more because we still have trickling in, but we're going to get started after this next question. Mrs. Branch's class sent this question in. They're with us backstage. Mrs. Branch, do you want to unmute so Caesar can ask the question live?
Yes.
Hello.
All right, we gotcha.
Which type of sea turtle lays the most eggs?
That is going to be the hawksbill sea turtle, and that's kind of by a long shot. So average for us that we see in Florida, with loggerheads in particular, is about 115 eggs is the average for many species. But the hawksbill sea turtle, they can lay upwards of 180 to 200 eggs per nest, and they can do that multiple times in one season. That's a lot of eggs.
A lot of eggs.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's play some Kahoots and we'll get back to the Q&A action. I'm going to hit start now. We'll get a 3-second count in. There are multiple choice. There's true and false. The quicker you put in the right answer, the more points you're going to get. And we'll watch the leaderboard as we go through our 4 questions. So coming your way, multiple choice. How many species of sea turtles are there? Is it 2, 4, 7, or 10? So how many species of sea turtles are there? 2, 4, 7, and 10. I put about 30 seconds on the clock, so there's lots of time to get your answer in, but the quicker you get that right answer in, the more points you're going to get. So 2, 4, 7, or 10 species of sea turtles around the world.
I know this answer.
I hope so. We've got over 200 students who think they do too. All right. Good job, crew. 7 is the right answer. Let's take a look at our leaderboard. The purple elephant squeaked it in just ahead of everybody else. So let's go to our next question, a little true or false action. Green sea turtles are the largest sea turtle in the world. You only have 20 seconds. There's a picture clue decoding there that might help you out. Green sea turtles are the largest sea turtles in the world. True or false? A couple more seconds. All right. That is absolutely false. We know our leatherbacks are the largest sea turtle in the world. Good job, crew. Let's go to our scoreboard. The genius rooster sneaking in third place.
Pulled ahead.
All right. We got another true or false coming your way. All of the work Lucas does with sea turtles is based on land. Is that true or is that false? That the work that Lucas and his team does with sea turtles is land-based work. True or false? The work Lucas and his team do is based on land. Lots of answers flying in. All right, good job, crew. That is true. Good stuff. What did that do? What did that do? The social ravens stealing that top spot. We got lots of movement, and the bold orcs jumped 81 places.
Wow.
Was sneaking in there at the end. Let's see what happens in our final question. It's another multiple choice. It's important to get out on the beach early to get the best sunspot, to see tracks and ID turtle species, to scare the turtles back into the water, or all of the above. Why is it important that Lucas and his team get out to the beach early? Are they trying to get the best spot in the sun? Are they trying to see the tracks and ID the turtle species? Are they trying to scare the turtles back into the water? Or are they doing all of the above? You've got about 5 seconds to lock in your answer. All right. Good job, crew. It absolutely is to see the tracks, to ID the turtle species. Let's take a look at our final podium. In third place, we've got the amusing fox.
Amusing fox.
In second place, the social raven, which means we have a new leader. All right, flying crab.
Flying crab.
Sneaking in there at the end to take top spot. Good stuff, crew. Thanks so much for playing along with us.
Nice
We're going
work.
to turn off that music. The screen share should be over. And we're going to get into Q&A action even more heavily. We're going to go to some second graders hanging out with us. Second graders with Mrs. Wilkie. How we doing, second graders? There they are. They look pretty excited.
Wait, is this is Palm Valley? They're by me.
Oh, very cool.
You're close to me. Hi, guys.
Excellent. Well, let's snag a question or two from our second graders. Oh, I think maybe on mute right now. There we go.
I have a question. Are
Uh-huh.
turtles related to dinosaurs?
Are turtles related to dinosaurs? That is a good question. To a degree, yes, one could argue that they are related to dinosaurs. They have been around for millions and millions of years. There's some species of sea turtles that have been around since the dinosaurs. Some of those older species are no longer here. They've evolved to the current species that we have, but they are reptilian in nature. So yes, I would argue that they are, to a degree, related to dinosaurs, distantly.
All right, second graders, you got one more there before I check in with another class? That looks like a yes. Oh, you got to grab the mic for me.
How many
Go ahead,
people
Harvey.
in the Kahoot? How much people are in the Kahoot?
Oh, how many people?
There
It's
was
like
at least
200 something.
216, but some of them were classrooms. So there could have been a whole lot more because one Kahoot person could have been one classroom. So I bet there
Yeah.
were over 300 students hanging out and playing Kahoot with us today, which was pretty fun. And I can see you have your computer still on, so you guys were definitely hanging out with us, which is great. All right, let's go to Miss Damon's fourth graders. How we doing, Mrs. Damon's crew? Give me a big wave. There they are. Where are they joining us from? They're in New York, Jamestown, New York.
Sorry. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
No.
All right, you guys have a question? What do you have, Griffin?
What is the biggest turtle? How big can they get?
What is the biggest turtle? The biggest turtle is the leatherback sea turtle, and they can get to be about 2,000 pounds. That's massive. And they can get to be about 7 feet wide. I am 6'3" tall, and I have a photo. It wasn't in my presentation, but I have a photo of me laying across the sea turtle track, and it was wider than I am tall.
Wow.
I'm over 6 feet. I should have put that in my presentation.
All right, fourth graders, let's grab one more.
Adeline?
How old can turtles get to be?
Ooh, it depends on the species. Most turtles can get to be about 75 or 80 years old. That's what we think. In Finding Nemo, I think that's an incorrect age, 150. That's more of tortoises can be 150 years old. But sea turtles, for the most part, 75 to 80 years old. Leatherbacks will only be about 35, 40 years old. But usually the hard-shelled sea turtles, which are 6 of the 7 species, can get to be about 75 to 80 years old.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Well, while we're plugging tortoises, I want to let our classes know on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern, we're going to go live from St. Helena. And on St. Helena is Jonathan the tortoise. And Jonathan,
Yes.
they figure, is the oldest known living land animal. So approximately 190 years old.
Wow.
So if you want to join us and meet Jonathan, Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern, you can register on our website.
I want to meet Jonathan.
Yeah, and so it should be pretty cool. There's a picture of him from 1886, and that's how they can estimate he was about 50 in 1886 maturity. So he's seen a few things.
That's
He's
pretty
been
awesome.
around. He's met some people, so that'll be pretty cool. Let's grab a few questions from YouTube here. Miss Riddle's class wants to know, are the nesting sites moving around due to climate change?
That is a fantastic question. So what we're seeing in Florida, I can really only speak to Florida, but what we're seeing is we're starting to see a higher density of nests. That means more nests in a smaller area. In Northeast Florida, which was not the case 10, 15 years ago, we're starting to see more and more nests. And my theory is that the populations from Central and South Florida are starting to migrate further and further north. We're also starting to see nests further north along the Atlantic coast of the United States. I know that there was a nest in Maryland last year or 2 years ago. That was never the case before. We're starting to see more nests in North Carolina and Virginia. And so I suspect that they are slowly migrating northward. And what we're seeing is the nesting season is getting longer. We're starting to see normally the nesting season is only May 1st through October 31st, but we're seeing nests being laid earlier. This year we had a nest on April 7th, which is the earliest nest we've ever had on our beach. But then we're also seeing nests incubate later into the winter. Just last year, we had a nest hatch on November 21st. Normally, they're all done and hatched by the beginning of October, but we had a nest incubating through November. So not only are we seeing them migrating further and further north, but we're seeing the nesting season get longer and longer because of the increased temperatures.
All right, a few more questions here on YouTube. This one is come up a couple times from Miss Montanero's crew, from Miss Hauser's crew, are really curious about the different kinds of food that sea turtles will eat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so each species eats their own different type of food. Leatherbacks, the biggest sea turtle, eats primarily jellyfish. Loggerhead sea turtles, they get their name loggerhead because of their big head and big, strong jaws. They need those strong jaws to crush through shells of crabs. They eat horseshoe crabs, blue crabs. They eat conchs and whelks. Hawksbills have a very pointy bill, kind of like a hawk, and that's so they can get into the crevices of the coral to eat sponges. They primarily eat sponges. Green sea turtles, as they mature into adulthood, they become strictly vegetarian. They only eat turtle grass, seagrass, or algae. And that's an interesting story because they will absorb all of the green from the plants, and that's where they get their name green turtles, because their fat is actually a greenish color that they get from the plants that they eat. So each species of turtle has a different specialization with food, and they have different adaptations for those prey items.
All right, one more from YouTube, then we'll go back to our camera crew. Miss Flanagan's class wants to know, if the baby sea turtles have hard shells, how can the predators eat them?
Well, the predators can just eat them in one bite, in one swallow, because they're that small. They're pretty easy, yeah. And the sea turtle shells, the baby sea turtle shells, haven't hardened as hard as adult shells just yet. Just like when a baby human is born, their joints and bones aren't fully formed yet. And they are a little bit softer. They haven't hardened yet. So the baby sea turtles have a little bit of a softer shell until they can grow older.
All right. Miss Collin and Miss Darling's fifth graders, we'll give you a chance at a second question because you guys only got one during the coot. Do you guys have another turtle question for us? Oh, can you grab the mic? Okay.
I'm not used to this. Everybody's very shy today for some reason. They're into waving, but not into the question part. But we
Fair
were wondering, do they have to be under certain conditions for the babies to hatch? Like, could you dig them up and bring them somewhere else? Or not that you want to, but...
Yeah, the concern with, we call that relocating nests. The concern with relocating nests is when reptile eggs are laid, sea turtles and crocodilians, I don't know about other species of reptiles. That's not where my expertise is. But when a reptile egg is laid, when a sea turtle egg is laid, the embryo starts attaching to the inside of the shell. And so you cannot change the orientation. So if you were to pick it up and turn it, gravity would separate that connection and the embryo would die. That's unlike a bird egg, which constantly needs to be rotated by the mama bird. And if anyone has ever done chicken eggs in an incubator, you do have to rotate your eggs pretty frequently. But with sea turtle eggs and crocodilians and maybe some other reptiles, you cannot change that. So relocating a nest is at risk. You're risking that change because there is human error. We might make a mistake or drop an egg or something like that. We do it as carefully as possible. So we want to lower that risk. For the most part, the mama turtles know exactly what they need to do. They lay the eggs in the right spot on the beach, and they lay them deep enough, and so they get enough humidity and moisture, and there is oxygen exchange between the grains of sand, so the eggs do get oxygen being under the sand. And they do need certain temperatures. What we do kind of, what our phrase is, their sex is determined by temperature. So hot chicks, cool dudes. The hotter the temperature the eggs incubate at, the more females that nest will have. And the cooler the temperature the eggs are, the more males that will have. Hot chicks, cool dudes.
All right, very cool. Okay, let's squeeze in. Let's check in one more time with Mrs. Erickson and see if there's one more question before we say goodbye for today.
I would also like to know what type of sea turtle has the least amount of eggs.
Oh, the least amount of eggs. That's probably going to be the leatherback sea turtle. They, although they lay fewer eggs than other species, their eggs are bigger. So they will lay a clutch size, a group of eggs will be about 70 to 75 eggs per nest. But most other sea turtles, they're about the size of a ping pong ball. That's about as big as the egg is. But for leatherbacks, they're about the size of a racquetball. They're a little bit bigger, but there's fewer eggs, but they are bigger.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, and good luck with your competition.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Well, I want to start off, Lucas, with a huge shout out to all of our classrooms today. They had tons of questions, played some fun Kahoots. Let's see here. Yeah, great groups here. Everywhere from Florida, North Carolina, Nicaragua, lots of Florida, Indiana, Toronto, and the list goes on and on. Nova Scotia, Arizona. So great group of classrooms. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Lucas,
I'm
thank
happy so many people like sea turtles.
Yeah, how can you not? They're so cool.
I know.
And I'm sure you've done this before. I'm sure you've been snorkeling or scuba diving with them, but it's just, yeah, seeing them in the water is pretty darn cool
It's
too.
pretty cool.
Awesome.
cool.
Well, Lucas, thank you so much. That was an awesome presentation.
Thank
A
you.
lot of our classrooms had to duck out for lunches and such, but we still have a few groups there who can give us a big wave, a big goodbye and thank you. So let's pop a few of them in. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us today. Thank you for those great questions.
Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Go save sea turtles.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to sign off for today. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.